Hello everybody. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for being here as always. Last Tuesday. So starting next week, we've been talking about this for a couple weeks. Starting next week, meditations are going to be on Sunday. Moving it to a more ideal time for my daily, weekly schedule, as well as just moving it to the beginning of the week. Doing it on Sunday seems appropriate to start the week with the meditation that talks about the whole week. We've talked about how sometimes on Tuesday I'll talk about something that happened on Sunday, still maybe playing a factor, and something we all just recently experienced perhaps, but yeah, switching it so we can be a little bit more in real time, and I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about just switching it up somehow. Same thing, just a little bit of a switch up, a little bit of a change, shake up, just to kind of stir up the energy a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put the intention up if you have not already seen it. It's always released a little bit early. Intentions have been released on Sunday for Tuesday's meditation. I will release intentions Friday. So it was usually Sunday evening. It might be Friday evening. We'll settle on a time, but yeah, Friday evening, so that way you will have the whole weekend to spend time with that intention and just see what comes up on your own. The hope is that you get really, really good things from the meditation that we do here together, but there is invaluable information and insights that you can get from your own thoughts and your own interpretation and just the first kind of things that come to mind and when you hear that intention. So if this is the first time you've heard the intention or seen it, here it is on the screen. Connective forces are abundant. Connective forces are abundant. So let's sit with that for just a second, just a moment, in case it's the first time you've seen the intention. Encourage you to look at it ahead of time, like I said, just to kind of see what comes up for you. Looking in the comments. Hi Nikita, hi Kevin. Good to see you both here. Thank you for being here. Hope you guys are having a good start to your week as well as everybody else. Connective forces are abundant. Connective forces. Originally, I had connective energies, and I felt like energy just wasn't quite grasping. So forces, something that's a little bit more of a pull or a push. Energy is around and abundant, and forces are referring to it as like a type of energy, right? But just kind of gives that little bit of strength to the energy. Forces. Connective forces are abundant. So it seems like some of these connective forces and energies that are around are things that we might not see up front. So it's kind of an interesting week. And it's kind of the type of thing where if we're not looking for it, you might not really catch it and realize exactly what has transpired or happened until kind of like you're really in the thick of it, or like almost hindsight, like things are almost done. So it's kind of interesting. So we start off this week and end this week with a sun aspect. So Sunday, Sun opposed Saturn, Sun in the sign of Virgo opposing Saturn in the sign of Pisces. This is interesting with the Pisces lunar eclipse that we have coming next week. We've talked about how we're entering eclipse season. So the full moon will be in the sign of Pisces next week. And that will be eclipse. We're within eclipse season now because we're in that lunar cycle that the first eclipse happens, but we're coming right into the thick of eclipse season here. So having the Sun Saturn opposition just ahead of that, just like 8 days, just slightly over a week, 8-9 days ahead of the eclipse, feels like it's a little bit of a precursor or kind of like a contemplation first. So Saturn is bringing some sort of seriousness or some sort of focus to something, okay? And with it being in opposition to the Sun represents our outward light, our solar light, right? So it represents our self, our purpose, our direction, the way we identify. So it could have things to do with our ego and the way we see ourselves, the way others see ourselves, or the way we want others to see us. So my first thoughts for you this week are, what came up over the weekend that you kind of had to sit with? What kind of either heaviness or focus or perhaps just a realization or a knowing of something? Did something kind of come into your sphere of like, okay, I'm seeing things a little bit, not necessarily more clear, but I'm seeing things from a different angle to like, either what I need to do or where I should be going, or like I'm seeing things from a little bit different perspective or different angle. And there's this focus, there's this tunnel vision on something that kind of comes to light. So it's like, what is a piece that has possibly been missing with whatever's going on for you in your life, that maybe you started to have some sort of realization or some sort of pieces kind of started to show themselves. Not necessarily that they were coming together. Sun Saturn can feel repressive, it can feel lacking, it can feel like there's some sort of worth that's not quite there. So it's not necessarily like something came to you, but what did you realize could potentially be missing? That's kind of where we start the week. And then we end the week with Sun and Jupiter. So it's interesting that we start with Sun, Saturn, so the Sun and the Great Malefic, the quote unquote difficult or bad planet. And then we end the week with Sun, Jupiter, the quote unquote greater benefic. So then it's like the most difficult planet of the traditional planets, and then like the most beneficial and the most uplifting of the two. So that's, you kind of see a little bit of a progression there just with the Sun. Remember that the Sun represents us on many different levels. Like I said, it's our purpose and our drive. It's how we identify, it's how we see ourselves, it's what fills us up. Think about Leo, because Leo is the place of the Sun. So like Leo wants to be fully fulfilled. So what type of things fulfill you? That is your solar light. That is the sun sign that you were born underneath. There is something within that sign, maybe not fully if you have other placements, but there's something within that sun sign that you resonate deeply with on some level. Or maybe if it's, in the 12th house, then maybe it's something that you don't necessarily see that you resonate with, something like that. But that's where we start the week, is with Sun and Saturn, okay? So that came through the weekend. It's on the falling away and now. But then on Friday, the Sun squares Jupiter, or Jupiter squares the Sun, because Jupiter is in the superior position. In fact, the Sun is in the inferior position in both of these aspects, which, opposition, there's not inferior, I guess, in that one. But in the Sun-Jupiter square, the Sun is in the inferior position, Jupiter is in the superior position. So what that means is that there's this way that within the square, Jupiter is kind of impressing itself on the Sun. So we end up with this beneficial, this expansion, this wisdom of Jupiter somehow, some sort of knowledgement or enlightenment coming into the space of the Sun by the end of the week. So maybe if it starts out a little bit, maybe if the week starts out like a little bit heavy and like what we have not been doing, where the lack is, where things are not fully fulfilled, like what pieces we still need. Maybe by the end of the week, we start to see the way where the pieces can come together. So the square between Jupiter and the Sun is the opening or individuating square. So this is the square where the pieces start to come together a little bit. So we had Sun-Jupiter conjunction May 18th, so some sort of seeding point in the middle of May where like something was initiated or something was brought to the next level, or there was some sort of alignment there, somewhere in the middle of May. And now we've reached that first step of action, of individuating away from those seeds. So now that the seed has been planted, now the pieces are starting to come forward somewhere. So think about the middle of May and think about what was going on within your own life, within the sign of Gemini as well, and what was being planted, what was being seeded, what was being initiated. Do you see where some of those pieces are starting to come to you? Jupiter likes to give us things and likes to expand and likes to encompass all things. So Jupiter may be bringing you some sort of gift, some sort of benefit that will allow you to start to work with that seed that has been planted in the sign of Gemini. So again, looking at the Sun as us, I see lots of personalization here within this week, because everything we're going to talk about are personal planets, and we have two major aspects for the Sun this week. And the Sun is our solar light. It's it's ourself and it's our ego. So if we have this, if we had a seeding point of something that deals with us, with our Gemini Jupiterian self, whatever that house is, within your chart, and just thinking about what initiated in May. You don't have to necessarily know of your chart, but if you do, it can be a little bit helpful. Where do you see some sort of individuation of that starting to come forward? Seeds were planted. Now there's some sort of work and effort that is required, but there's a little bit of luck and there's a little bit of benefit. There's an ability to actually make your own luck in your own, by like going forward with your solar light and the thing that you want to bring forward, the thing that you want to individuate and bring into being, whatever that is for you. You know, the ego is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like that's what we're egotistical, where like our ego gets to be like too big or too self-important or self-aggrandized. Like, sure, that can be a little bit difficult and maybe less beneficial, but a sense of purpose, a sense of self, and having that, a healthy like sense of self and like self-worth, these are things that the Sun-Jupiter square could be starting to kind of bring to us somehow through some sort of Jupiterian benefit. Your ego being your conscious mind and that part of your identity that is you, rather than like how you relate, how you identify with others or how you relate to others. That's more your moon or your lunar self. Your solar light is that exterior, outward light of you, okay? That's where we get that like the association with the ego and the outward light. So that's where we start the week and that's where we end the week. You know, there's support wherever you're trying to kind of individuate yourself coming through this week. It's not that the things are going to be just given to you and then there's no like work on the end of it. It's like Jupiter may bring some sort of helpful thing or idea, bring something helpful to you, but now it's your job to take that thing and work with it. So like think about the conjunction that we had in May between Sun and Jupiter being like planting the seed down within the ground, okay? So like you're taking the seed, you're putting it in the ground. Now you have to really pay attention to it. You have to water that plant quite a bit. You have to make sure that like as it starts to come up, as it starts to sprout, that like there's no animals or predators or anything getting to it. You have to make sure it gets enough light. If it doesn't, like if it is not cared for properly in that little seedling type phase, then the plant's not going to prosper and grow, right? Like once the plant gets bigger and it has a little bit more of its own like stability and ability, then you can kind of not have to pay maybe quite so much attention to it. But like in that beginning phase, whatever we're caring for and nurturing for, it really needs lots of love and attention. So that's kind of the phase we're at here with however you're trying to individuate yourself. Lots of love and tender and care. And that's going to come to you by the end of this week here, even if it starts out the beginning of the week being like, I haven't quite done exactly what I've been, what I quote unquote am supposed to do, like that type of thing. And then we have an interesting aspect right in the middle too. We have Mars sextiling Mercury. So Mars in the sign of Cancer. We talked about Mars in Cancer a lot last week, and the action and movement of Mars in a watery sign that is ruled by the moon, which is changeable within its own right because it is ruled by the moon, but it's a initiating sign too because it's a cardinal sign. So we've talked a lot about that within the last couple weeks. Anyways, Mars in the sign of Cancer coming into a sextile with Mercury. Now sextiles are typically beneficial, and I still do see that. However, we have Mars in the superior position here, so Mars is kind of acting on Mercury a little bit. Mercury is in the sign of Virgo, so it has moved into its own sign. And Mars is in the sign of Cancer. So there's this sextile between feminine water and feminine earth coming through in the middle part of this week. So with Mars being in that superior position, the actions and the drives and our motivation and like what makes us move, that's Mars, right? Working on the mind. So Mars being our drives, motivation, ambitions, actions, like all of the things that we do, all of the movements. Mercury being all the things that relate to the mind, okay? How we perceive things, how we communicate things, how we think about things, how we process things, how we don't process things and don't communicate as well as communicate. It's the movement and the action and the drive coming together with the mind somehow. So how can your drive and your action and your movements have something to do with your mind? There can be this mind-body connection. Both Mars and Mercury are very quick moving. So swift mind, swift changing mind, swift and quick action driven mind. So like acting on our emotions here can definitely be a thing this week with Mars in the sign of Cancer. But the mind and body connection here, specifically the emotional body and how we connect to things within us and how we process things. Perhaps getting in touch with your sensitive side a little bit here and how that works with like how we respond to things and how we don't respond to things, how we take that emotional charge and what we do with it. You know, maybe this is a way for us to kind of start to get to know Mars in the sign of Cancer. We talked last week about how Mars is going to be in and out of Cancer quite a bit, especially through the retrograde. And so we're going to have quite a bit of time of Mars in the sign of Cancer. Mars early on into the sign of Cancer coming into a sextile with Mercury, which is within its own sign. That deep emotional body, that deep emotional reaction of Mars in the sign of Cancer, that action related to like where we've come from. Remember that Cancer is ruled by the moon, so all of those lunar significations of like our memory body, where we've come from, our ancestry line, our thoughts and our subconscious mind, the conditionings that have become imprinted within us, even whether we realize them or not. Mars is acting within this sphere. So there's ability and there's possibility to connect and heal very deeply with our emotions and come into a place where we are very in touch and in tune and very very fluid with our emotions and the way we connect to others forward and backward on a timeline. But there's also this ability to act quickly on our emotions without possibly thinking it through in the sign with Mars in the sign of Cancer. With that sextile to Mercury, moving quickly, we could have this mind-body connection to where like, okay, we start to put things together as Mercury's moving into the sign of Virgo. I kind of skipped over that a little bit. We'll come back to that. I jumped right to the aspects. But how Mercury is working in the sign of Virgo, compartmentalizing and organizing things, we could be able to like take productive action at the same time. Okay, so there's lots of different ways that this can go with Mars being in the superior position, I think. What came to mind when I was looking at this aspect, because this really is a big chunk of the week here. We're in the applying phase right now. If you're watching this live on Tuesday, we don't get to be more than three degrees away until Friday. So really this is like a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, kind of like super heavy. And then by Friday, Saturday, really kind of starting to fall away. But there's a lot of quick movements and there's a lot of swiftness here. And this is where there could be those connective forces that we might not see right away. It could be very productive or it could be very, very overwhelming. But sometimes if we don't realize things until afterwards and it's in the hindsight, then that can be a little bit difficult sometimes. It could be that you realize that you just got a whole bunch of organizing done, or you just took a lot of like checked a whole lot of things off of your list, or you had a lot of motivation to start putting things together, or start taking the steps that you need to do whatever the thing is that you want to do, or whichever direction that you want to go. There's some motivation there perhaps. But it could also be that our mind and Mars are working together in a way that we are looking at all the little details of Mercury in the sign of Virgo, and then Mars is reacting emotionally to things, so then we're kind of like nitpicky, emotionally reacting to things. Sextiles are typically a little bit more positive, a little bit more flowy, but if you get Mars and Mercury flowing together in a certain kind of fashion, I think that there is a possibility for a little bit of tension to arise here. So this is that connective forces are abundant. It's more than just energy. There's a little bit more of a push. So which direction is it pushing us in? The interesting thing is that the moon is going to move into the sign of Capricorn late Wednesday night, and Thursday morning the moon is going to be opposed to Mars in the sign of Cancer and trining Mercury. So it feels like it gives a little extra oomph to this transit than what would have normally been there. Mars in Cancer is ruled by the moon, so then it comes into an opposition with the moon. So there's like this standoff between the ruler, the emotional body, the actual lunar emotional body, and like memory body that we all hold within us. Staring down Mars over there in its home sign where it wants to be, typically in the best position. And Mars over there is kind of stewing and hot and heavy, where the moon wants to be a little bit more flowing. Mars may want to give and impress itself upon, where the moon is much more receiving and impressed upon, like our lunar body holds and receives and reflects things. Think about how the moon reflects the light of the sun itself. It doesn't have its own light. So there's some different, there's some dynamic aspects going on this week, and these are like the ones that I said that I feel like we could kind of miss. The Sun Saturn and the Sun Jupiter, those are bigger, broader aspects that might not like affect. They very well could, but they might have a little bit more overarching theme, a little bit more broad, so you may not see like an exact thing on the day of these aspects. Mars Mercury, that's a little bit more like incident or like moment affecting, okay? Especially with that moon moment Thursday morning. So there's that kick and intensity added by the moon opposition and trine to the sign of Mercury. So that trine between Mercury and the moon is amplifying that emotional connection. Maybe I should have had something about emotions in this intention. I don't know. I've said before that you could have lots of different intentions for the week. It just depends on which direction you'd like to go. So Mars and Mercury and the moon are expanding that emotional connection and like emotional mind-body connection. Meanwhile, Mercury is working with Mars, the action and the movement, and perhaps something to do with the body being in the sign of Cancer. So there's this double aspect coming to Mercury, coming to our mind and the way we perceive things, the way we connect to things, and the way we process and communicate things from two different angles, and it's expanding upon the mind. So watching for these different connections. Some of the other kind of behind the scenes are that we have Mercury in the sign of Virgo, which I already mentioned, and we have Venus in the sign of Libra still. So they're both Mercury, the messenger god that brings us resources and works with our mind and our thoughts and our perception and all those other things that I've just said up a zillion times, is in its home sign, okay? Mercury in the sign of Virgo is very good at organizing, separating, compartmentalizing, breaking things apart to distribute them. So Virgo takes the what bloomed in the sign of Leo, what that light was that shone at its fullest height, and then Virgo takes the result of that, the harvesting of whatever has been at the height of the bloom in the sign of Leo, and it harvests the abundance that has come from it, and it distributes it. It breaks it apart and separates it however it needs to be separated. There's a discernment of the mind when Mercury is in the sign of Virgo, and that ability to compartmentalize and problem solve and then distribute equally by those abilities. So, you know, Mercury in the sign of Virgo is able to do lots of really good things, but it also has that ability to kind of just whirlwind and kind of spin a little bit too, especially Mercury is getting closer to the sun for another Cazimi moment, so we will start talking about that next week and into the next 2 weeks here. And then we've been talking about how Venus has been in the sign of Libra. It's right in the middle of Libra. I think it's right about 15, 16 degrees at the moment. So Venus, the planet of desire, the planet of harmony and balance and what brings us cohesion, is within its own sign. Mercury in the sign of Virgo is within its own sign. So there's this backline ability and support and connection that you might not necessarily notice. Wherever Virgo is within your own chart, there is some sort of discernment and some sort of separating and compartmentalizing. There is something to distribute and something to glean from that sign, something to kind of observe and see what comes about from it. And that's what Mercury does. So when Mercury is wherever Virgo is within your own chart, there's this natural ability to do the things that are kind of insinuated within that topic of your life. Okay, so when you have, same thing with Venus in the sign of Libra. When you have Venus in its own sign of Libra, wherever you have Libra in your own chart, you strive for balance, you strive for harmony, you strive for cohesion. You want this to be a good feeling place, okay? So like for me, I'm a Scorpio rising and my 12th house is Libra. Venus or Scorpio rising has this way that it wants that hidden place to be a place of balance, a place of harmony. Scorpio does like to retreat into its own little bit of darkness. So it wants to bring some sort of, no matter what Venus is doing in the chart, what that tells us whether we get the balance or not. But Libra wants that harmony, wants that balance. Think about the scales. It wants there to be justice, and wants there to be balance and everybody to have what they need. So you kind of can think about it that way as a way to kind of meditate on like, okay, where these two houses are within my own chart and within my own life, there's some connection here. There's this abundance of connective forces here that I can utilize somehow. So you can think about what you have going on in your own chart, if you know your chart, and you can contemplate it on it that way. But you can also just know that there's this back line of connective forces that are abundant that, again, we could kind of miss unless they're loud places within your own chart. This week seems like it could feel either overwhelming or productive, and again, you might not realize it till afterwards. Like you might not realize till you're fully overwhelmed, or you might not realize until you cleaned and organized an entire room, or like checked everything off of your list, or made progress in whatever the thing is that you're trying to make progress in. So yeah, it feels like there's kind of a lot going on this week, even though at first thought it could just be like, okay, we just have three aspects. We have Sun, Saturn in the beginning of the week, we have Jupiter, Saturn at the end of the week, and then we have this quick Mars, Mercury thing. The Mars, Mercury thing, because Mercury is moving a little slower, is not quite as fast as it could possibly be. So it's a little bit more drawn out, but it's like the middle of the week with this swiftness, okay? So there's still this quickness within it, and that's where it might kind of sweep you off your feet a little bit. But there could be some really, really good things coming together this week here. So connective forces are abundant. Connective forces are abundant. I feel like I just talked abundantly. So I'm going to take a drink of water. Okay, so a lot of this week focusing on us in different ways. Focusing on us within our solar light, within the way we shine, the way we want to identify, the way we want others to see us, the purpose that we want within the world, and looking at that in a little bit of a serious tone and kind of examining how we want to go forward. And then if we have some sort of productivity within the middle of the week with Mars and Mercury coming together, then Jupiter comes along and gives us a little bit of blessing, a little bit of abundance, or a little tool, or a little bit of knowledge some kind, a little bit of handout here, like, here, take this from all of your hard work that you've done, all of the thinking and actions that you've taken, and utilize this now too. It's not just like a golden key that opens a door and like everything is beautiful and everything is done for you necessarily, but that little bit, that little thing could lead you to that beautiful room where you open it and everything is beautiful and everything is exactly the way you want it to be. So there's this connection and there's this flow throughout the week. I think reminding ourselves about this connection so that way we don't forget about it is a good thing. And looking for those connections, looking for the places where Mercury in Virgo is separating and organizing things and pulling things together for us. Looking at where Venus in the sign of Libra is balancing the scales and allowing things to be a little bit more cohesive in some way. And then the way our solar light is being impressed upon by Saturn and Jupiter, and whatever Mars and Mercury means for you in the middle of the week, because that could be, it can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. But yeah, so we have for this week. The tarot card that I pulled for this week, Queen of Pentacles. I don't know if you can see that or not. The Queen of Pentacles. The Queen of Pentacles felt very much like, so first of all, it's the earth sign. It's a high queenly energy of Pentacles, of an earth sign. So it makes me think of Cancer and Virgo working together. If Cancer has something to do with the memory body and where we've come from, our ancestry, our lineage, where we've come from as far as our experiences and the conditionings of our mind, we all have them somehow, the subconscious mind coming together with the conscious mind. That high feminine energy, okay? If sun is masculine, the moon is feminine, right? Like the quintessential lovers other than Venus and Mars together. So we have this high queenly energy, but we have it in an earth sign. And we have the high queenly Cancer mother energy working with Virgo, the earthly maiden energy. So it feels like support, nurturing, and physical abundance, okay? And that's how, on the highest end of this, Mars and Mercury could be working together. It could be that we are supported, our feminine side is supported and cared for and nurtured on a physical level somehow. So that card felt just very, very fitting to the aspect that I was fully focusing on. So sometimes, often I'm focusing just like mostly on the intention and kind of everything. I was really thinking about the Mars-Mercury thing when that card popped out. So that, yeah, very, very fitting. And the Oracle card I did pull one in this week, and it's the Guardian Angel. We have a little feather coming to you. You are not alone. This feather, to me, it looks like it's like falling out of the sky, right? So I'm thinking about the Sun-Jupiter square at the end of the week and like Jupiter holding its hands out to you. Like, here you go, ma'am. Here's a little blessing for you and all your hard work that you've done, all the things that you've considered, all of the discernment you've done, all of the hard thinking. Like, here's a little tool for you to take, or a little bit of knowledge or a little bit of information for you to go forward with. So yeah, it feels, both of these cards makes it feel very, very supported and very, very nurturing, and connective forces, right? So like these cards together are connecting and supporting. So it feels very fitting to me, and it makes it feel like yeah, you are on the right track. And however you've been trying to move forward with your own solar light, however you've been trying to individuate or move forward with yourself or for yourself, there's some ability to do so this week. And that feels like a really, really nice thing, however that shows up for you. So, astrology, cards, move forward to our meditation, our last Tuesday meditation. We have our white intentional candle, white as always, because I want it to start out as a blank slate. Purity, clarity, understanding. I've told you before, you can change this candle color to any color you want it to be. And if you don't decide, whether you do or not decide to change the color of it, there is an amplification and there's a purification of the white sage oil in this candle that gives us a clear state, clean slate to be able to go forward with however you want this meditation to go forward. I have just a couple like feminine energy things on the table today. So we have this little Mother Mary with little Jesus down underneath her there, supporting, nurturing, feels very Queen of Pentacles too, like the mother physically supporting and like protecting the child. This little bell was my grandmother's, so it's high feminine energy to me. And I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this cool little goddess energy wooden token thing that I have. It came with an astrology board that I have. So very Earth Mother-like, and kyanite, you all know that this is my favorite and one of my favorite pieces. You've seen it many, many times. It just connects you to a higher source, higher realm of communication somehow. So whatever that means to you or whatever you're looking for. So those are the things that I have on the table. Give you one last look at the intention before I pull it away. Connective forces are abundant. Connective forces are abundant. How can you connect to your higher self, to your purpose, to your drives? How can you connect to who you want to be and where you want to go from here? On whatever level that is, it can be a larger than life existential level, or it can be on a physical, I want to do this, I want to look this way, I want to act this way. So, if you haven't already, let's come into a nice comfortable position. Whatever works for you, sitting, laying, wherever you are. Coming into a nice comfortable seated position here as we get ready to enter our meditation. Let's start by just closing your eyes or relaxing your eyes, whichever you prefer at this moment, and checking in with our breath. So we always start with making a little bit of space for the breath that you came here with today. So, as you are breathing in and out, and as you are just noticing your breath, noticing how it feels without trying to change anything yet, just see what you can observe about your breath. See what you feel, see what you think. Does your breath feel sufficient or insufficient? Does it feel slow and relaxed, or does it feel fast and labored? Does it feel like you're taking a full deep breath, or is your breathing a little bit shallow? Not passing any judgment here, not changing anything, just noticing, observing, and seeing what comes up. After you've taken a moment to check in with your breath, We now start to deepen the inhales and the exhales. Here, our only goal is for each inhale to be slightly longer, slightly more fulfilling than the one before it. And each exhale, slightly longer, slightly calmer, and releasing slightly more from within you than the breath before it. Here we work towards slow, even breaths, breathing in and breathing out. Taking the alternation of breath at your own pace, your own speed. Mars early in the sign of Cancer could have us connecting deeply to what drives us, what motivates us, connecting deeply to our actions. But it could also have us wound slightly tight if it's a position that doesn't necessarily resonate with our own natal placements. Mars and Cancer natives may feel a little more comfortable during this time. Than other Mars placements. So if it feels like there's some sort of emotional tension, some sort of stress or thing that we're holding on to, within these inhales and these exhales, even if just for a moment, let that go. Mercury in the sign of Virgo is very, very good at organizing, separating, discerning what stays and what goes. However, all of those details could be overwhelming, could be a little anxiety-inducing. This week, the two have a potential to work together. To slow their roll and flow as connective forces coming together. Meanwhile, the broader structures, frameworks, and systems within our soul, within our being, are being worked on. Saturn and Jupiter are great forces that are connecting with our sense of self this week. What bigger pictures are you being prompted to look at? What are you sitting with this week What are you grappling with? Thoughts to contemplate and meditate on. As you are thinking, contemplating, while still connecting to that breath within you, I want you to picture yourself walking through a wooded area. As you are walking through this place in this space, you walk slowly, not in a hurry, not in a rush. But as you look around, as you continue to walk through the wooded area, you start to notice all of the details that are around you. You start to take in all that you see, noticing the details, noticing the beauty, noticing any balances and imbalances that you may see on your path. You start to look behind logs, under rocks, not wanting to miss a single thing. You notice that you have a bag over your shoulder. Take note of what the bag looks like. As you are moving through the wooded area, looking under rocks, behind logs and trees, perhaps you move some leaves aside just to see what you see. You start collecting items that show up to you in this wooded space. Whether they are sticks and twigs or other blessings from the universe. You start to notice the material things that catch your eye. You just pick it up and put it in your bag, knowing that you will be able to sort it all efficiently later. As you are walking, you notice a big, large tree in front of you. So wide and so thick that as you get up closer to it, you notice that there is no way you could hug your arms around it. In fact, it would take several people holding hands to fully surround this tree. And as you start to get closer, you notice that there's something written on the tree. There's some sort of message on that tree. Slowly, you approach the tree. The letters and the words become more clear. What is the message that is written on the tree in front of you? You may see it, you may feel it, you may hear it. That tree has a message for you and only you. Remember that Mercury, Hermes, the messenger god that can travel to and from the underworld with swift ease, guiding souls on their path before life and after life. As well as bringing messages and resources during this life. So what is it that Hermes has to say to you today? What is the message? What is the words? What has been inscribed? You take note of the message and you carry it with you, not only in your mind, but also on your heart. And you move forward down your path with your bag. You notice a large tree stump just up ahead to the right. So you walk up towards that tree trunk. You take your bag off of your shoulder. And you empty that bag out onto this large tree trunk. You start to organize and group, separate all of the little things that you picked up on your path. Putting them together, like with like. And as you see and move each piece, you have a knowing that each and every one of these pieces are going to help you in some way, even if you don't know exactly what that way is yet. And as you see all of these pieces, all of these collectings of yours laid out in an organized fashion, there is a sense of calm, a sense of stability, and a sense of support that comes over you. Connective forces are abundant, whether we realize it or not. There is support, and we are not alone. And our path indeed is moving forward. In fact, you may notice that even if the beginning of the week feels a little bit stalled, there is going to be progress by the end of the week. So, may this be a week where all of the pieces start to come together. May you see the connective forces that are supporting you and moving you forward on your path. Thank you, thank you, thank you, every one of you, for being here. I appreciate you, as always. there is, like I said, potential to be pretty productive this week, or a little overwhelmed, or both, or overwhelmed with being productive. But then at the end of the week, you can sit down and see all that you've done and get ready for whatever the next step is. Thank you, all of you, for being here. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you. I just noticed I never lit the candle. There's lots of good reasons why we could do this on Sundays, and I think Sundays would be more beneficial. Tuesdays have gotten to be pretty busy days around my household here. So, I really enjoyed that meditation. I hope you all did. It was a little bit more provoking and a little bit more like putting it out there than it normally is. So whether or not messages come through, they will, and they have, whether you consciously realize it or not. So whether you saw something on that tree or not, or you may have been like, I don't know what the hell she's talking about, I don't see anything. Think on it. Think about that tree. Think about the message that you saw or did not see, and just play with it a little bit. Play with what kind of might come to your mind. You might not physically see words on a tree like they're carved in there, but you may start to think a thought, you may start to hear a thought or feel a certain way. Those are messages too. They're very subtle messages, but they're there. We're talking about this energy this week being where it could be, even though it's a lot and it's loud, it could be kind of background on the conscious level a little bit. So, it may be that there are subtle messages to hear, especially if you're not quite used to pulling into that level. So thank you for being here. Look for an intention Friday for our meditation on Sunday. I am really, really excited to move meditation to Sunday. So starting next week, Sunday, September 15th, we will be doing meditation Sunday evenings, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And I am looking forward to starting the week each and every week with all of you here and rolling through the energies of the week together and finding a way to lean into those energies. So again, thank you, and I will see you all on Sunday. I hope you all have the most productive and eye-opening week that you could potentially have. Yeah, that's it, and reach out at any time if you have anything at all. I'll see you all Sunday. Bye. Have a great week.